They called her Vrixxi. It wasn't her real name, just a noise the Terrans could pronounce. She was barely 3 feet tall, with pale opalescent skin, 4 small fingers, and deep violet eyes that shimmered under the harsh lights of the Galactic Exchange Academy. She was a Yolani, considered primitive, soft-spoken, and too fragile for interstellar integration. At least, that's what most of the other species whispered behind her back. Vrixxi sat in the shadowed corner of the mess hall, her nutrient pack untouched, antennae lowered in submission. Every day, the others would jeer at her with their smug glances or muttered jokes in 6 languages. Her clan had only recently been uplifted, and she was the first of her people to attend the academy. She didn't belong here. Not among the hardened recruits of a galaxy shaped by war and dominance, and especially not among the humans. The humans were different, loud, large, intimidating. Their biology was terrifying to many species: high muscle density, reactive nervous systems, regenerative organs, teeth designed for meat. Emotions so intense, even the Ithari empath caste avoided touching their minds directly. Vrixxi had heard the rumors. Humans had devoured a warlike species during the Sefer conflict, literally eaten them during a siege. She didn't know if it was true, but when the human cadet arrived 3 days ago, she had cowered further into herself. His name was Jace. He was tall, even for a human, with that wild, unkempt hair they all seemed to favor. His uniform was rumpled, his eyes a stormy blue, and his laugh loud enough to echo through the hallways. The others gave him space, a mixture of curiosity and quiet fear following wherever he walked. On the 3rd day, it happened. Vrixxi had made the mistake of standing in line. Just once. Just to get her nutrient pack and get out. But a thick-bodied Sarnathi male behind her shoved her aside with a growl. Out of the way, larva. Let real species eat first. She stumbled, her pack slipping from her hands. The other students laughed. Her hands trembled as she reached down. Then a boot stepped in front of hers. She froze. It was Jace. He didn't speak at first. He just looked at the Sarnathi with an expression so flat, so calm, it chilled the air around them. Then slowly he knelt and picked up her nutrient pack. "You drop this," he said, offering it with one hand. His voice was gentle. Nothing like she expected. She stared up at him, wide-eyed, antennae twitching with disbelief. Her fingers quivered as she reached out to accept the pack, but recoiled, expecting some cruel trick. But he didn't pull it back. He just smiled. And then, to everyone's surprise, including hers, he turned to the Sarnathi. "Touch her again," he said, tone still calm, "and I'll show you exactly why everyone fears us." Silence. Then murmurs. Shocked stares. No one had ever seen a human step in for someone so insignificant. Vrixxi clutched the nutrient pack to her chest, staring at him like he was made of fire. And in that moment, something ancient and powerful shifted in her small, trembling chest. Not fear, but hope. After that moment in the mess hall, Vrixxi's world shifted. Not immediately, not loudly, but like the slow turning of a moon toward a rising sun, something changed. The others noticed, of course. Whispers followed her now. Not the mocking kind, but uncertain, wary ones. She was still tiny, still different. But now she was under his protection. And Jace. Jace was a problem no one wanted. He walked with the swagger of someone who had survived worse than anyone dared ask about. He laughed easily but stared too long. He trained alone, hard, violent sessions that made even the instructors hesitate to interrupt. One of the Makari called him a predator in a scholar's shell. Vrixxi didn't understand him. Not really. But she couldn't stop watching him either. And then, 3 days later, he sat beside her. Just like that. Slid his tray onto her table and sat down without asking. She almost dropped her nutrient pack again. "Hey, Vrixxi, right?" he asked, chewing something that looked like it had once run on legs. She blinked. Her voice was so small it barely registered. Yes, I'm Jace. No. He smiled, and to her shock, he held out a datapad. Want to see something cool? Suspicious and unsure, she leaned forward slowly. The pad showed a crude animation of a Terran combat maneuver. Fast, brutal, efficient. The figure on the screen elbowed, threw, broke, and pinned its opponent in less than 4 seconds. This is CQC, close quarters. Not taught to non-humans yet, he said. But I think you could learn it. Vrixxi looked up, confused. Me? He nodded. You're small, fast. You can move in ways we can't. I saw how you reacted when that lizard shoved you. You ducked instinctively. That's something you can build on. But why me? He leaned back, looking at the ceiling. My people say, if no one else will lift you up, lift someone else. You're the first being here I've seen that doesn't walk like the galaxy owes them something. Vrixxi blinked hard, heart fluttering like wings. You're not scared of me? She asked. He looked at her, long and serious. I've seen monsters, he said. You're not one of them. They trained in secret, in empty holosuites and shadowed corners of the academy halls. Jace taught her balance, breathing, awareness. He showed her where to hit. Not hard, but smart. How to fall. How to rise again. She bruised. A lot. But she smiled through the pain. And he noticed. Good, he'd say, after every stumble. That means you're stronger today than yesterday. And slowly, the scared little Yelani began to disappear. In her place, something else was taking shape. Smaller than a warrior. Quieter than a rebel. But unmistakably dangerous in her own way. The girl no one noticed was learning to move like a ghost and strike like lightning. And soon, someone was going to find out. Weeks passed. The whispers returned, but this time they were different. Did you see her move? She ducked the training drone like she knew it was coming. Why's the human always with her? Vrixxi had stopped flinching, stopped curling her wings tight to look smaller. When she walked, her steps had a rhythm, measured, grounded. Her eyes scanned everything now. Exits, footwork, posture. Jace had taught her that survival wasn't about size. It was about seeing before the strike and deciding where to place your own. She still said little, but her silence was no longer timid. It was patient. The moment came during Tactical Sim 09B mixed teams, randomized squads, no weapons, just hand-to-hand capture the beacon in a simulated terrain. It was supposed to test teamwork and reaction under stress. Vrixxi was assigned to a squad with 2 Targari, 1 Machari, and, unfortunately, Lauren. Lauren, the Krell male who had once thrown her to the ground for fun. She hadn't seen him up close in weeks, but he remembered her. Stay out of the way, bug. He growled as the round started, voice low but full of venom. Or I'll break something smaller this time. The others ignored it. As usual, Vrixxi didn't answer. The whistle blew. The arena lit up. Combat began, and for 2 minutes, she did exactly what everyone expected. Ran, dodged, avoided conflict. Her wings kept her agile, just like Jace said. She stayed near cover, calculated, watched, waited. Then she saw it. Laran had overextended, his attention on a Machari that ducked low, his weight on his front foot. No guard behind him. Now. She moved like lightning, 2 steps, a pivot. She slid under his arm, popped up behind him, and drove her elbow into the nerve cluster behind his knee. The Krell roared and stumbled. Before he could react, she shifted her weight, jumped on his back, wrapped one arm around his neck and the other across his chest. Her small frame locked into place like a clamp. He thrashed. She held. Jace had told her, they're always stronger. You just have to be smarter. Vrixxi tightened the choke. Yield, she hissed in his ear. Or sleep. Laran froze and tapped out. The sim paused. Stunned silence rippled across the arena. Even the instructors looked confused. Then came the roar from the viewing platform above. Jace, fists in the air, laughing like thunder. Yes, that's my girl. Vrixxi let go and stepped back. Her heart pounded, wings trembling. But her face was calm. Later, in the locker room, she found a datapad slipped into her bag. It had a message from Jace. One moment changes everything. You've had yours. Ready for the next? She clutched the pad close. No one had ever believed in her before. Not like this. And somewhere deep inside her, something began to awaken. Something fierce. Something proud. Something human. Something shifted after the arena incident. Not immediately. Not obviously. But slowly, surely, like gravity changing. For the first time, when Vrixxi entered a hallway, others stepped aside. Some looked away. Others looked at her. Carefully. Not mockingly. Not with pity. With caution. With respect. The instructors began watching her training sessions more closely. Tactical Officer Marin even paused a class once to replay her takedown of Loran. She read the timing, Marin said, tapping the hollow projection. Anticipation over strength. Precision. This is what wins wars. Vrixxi felt like she'd grown wings again. Not the fragile, fluttering ones on her back, but wings of iron. Wings built with trust. With belief. With Jace. He trained her harder now. Not cruelly, but honestly. He held her to the same standard as anyone else. Again, he'd say after a stumble. Faster. Read the foot placement. That's a tell. Don't hesitate when you've already won. They sparred often, and sometimes she won. More often than anyone thought she could. Then came the invitation. It wasn't addressed to her at first. It was for Jace. An open combat exhibition between the mixed species academies of the Coalition of Allied Systems. A chance to show off talent, to impress military scouts. Jace declined, but when the names were announced, Vrixxi was listed. She approached him, datapad shaking in her claws. You didn't submit my name, she said, tone half accusation, half bewilderment. I didn't, he replied, grinning. Marin did. He saw what I saw. The galaxy deserves to see it too. Vrixxi looked at the screen again. 3 weeks until the exhibition, she wanted to vomit. Everyone will be watching, she whispered. Jace leaned in, eyes steady. Good. Let them. Let them see what they tried to break. Let them see what they couldn't. For the next 3 weeks, she lived and breathed training. No more hiding, no more fear. Her claws became faster, her wings stronger, her reading of opponents, a thing of beauty. Word spread. Students started asking to spar with her, not to mock her, but to learn. Even Lauren kept his distance now. Vrixxi didn't feel small anymore, and when she stood before the drop shuttle on the morning of the event, academy uniform crisp, mind-focused, she looked at Jace, who nodded once. Go make them remember your name, he said. Her wings opened behind her, wide and sure. I will. And with that, Vrixxi stepped into the stars. The combat exhibition took place on the neutral moon of Oryx 5, a shimmering silver disk orbiting a binary sun. Its centerpiece, the Arena of Concord, a coliseum of steel and plasma, surrounded by bleachers packed with delegates, cadets, instructors, and high-ranking military officers. It was the biggest stage Vrixxi had ever seen. When she stepped into the waiting chamber beneath the arena floor, her mandibles clenched. Her heart, 2 of them, beat double time. Other competitors sized her up. Some sneered. One, a hulking Bragorth brute, let out a low laugh. They're sending that into the ring? Vrixxi ignored him. She visualized her stance. Her angles. Jace's voice echoed in her mind. They're going to underestimate you. That's their first mistake. Make sure it's also their last. The first match came. A Martian-trained human versus a Tovrian leper. Fast, brutal, flashy. The crowd roared. Vrixxi's name appeared next on the holoscreen. Her opponent, Shrek Maljarn, a Zothon brawler with a reputation for turning matches into bloodbaths. She stepped into the arena. Sunlight poured from the open roof, casting her small figure into sharp relief. The crowd went quiet. She was so small, Shrek grinned with rows of needle teeth. I don't like bugs, he hissed. Then you'll hate how fast I sting, Vrixxi replied. The buzzer sounded. He charged. She didn't run. She read. The shoulder angle, the knee torque. He'd strike wide, telegraphed. She ducked, pivoted, slid under his guard, and drove her elbow into the nerve cluster behind his arm joint. He howled. Then she dropped him with a leg sweep. The crowd gasped. Shrek roared, lunged again, sloppier, angry. She spun around his momentum and struck him clean in the jaw with the back of her heel. He hit the ground and didn't get back up. Silence. Then cheers. Rising cheers. In the observation deck, Jace stood with arms crossed, eyes locked on her. That's my girl, he muttered. Vrixxi walked off the field as if her feet barely touched the ground. For the rest of the tournament, eyes followed her. Whispers turned to murmurs. Murmurs into recognition. She made it to the semifinals. There, she faced the Bragorth who'd laughed in the waiting room. He wasn't laughing now. They fought hard. Vrixxi's shoulder dislocated mid-bout. She popped it back in and kept going. She didn't win, barely. But as the Bragorth lifted her hand at the end, the entire arena stood and applauded, not politely, furiously. Vrixxi had become more than a competitor. She had become a symbol, not of strength through size or brutality, but of precision, of grit, of the power of being told no 1,000 times and standing anyway. In her final bow before the delegation, someone in the crowd shouted, "Who trained her?" And Jace, from the shadows of the gallery, simply smiled. When the ceremony ended, Vrixxi was swarmed. Cadets from species who used to snicker now stood in awe. A Kothari whispered, "You're the one who beat Shrek." Even the Bragorth grinned and handed her a protein ration bar, the warrior's version of respect, but Vrixxi only searched for one face. Jace. He wasn't near the arena, not in the barracks, not by the training fields. She finally found him outside the academy walls, sitting on a low hill under an alien willow, arms crossed behind his head, staring at the stars like they owed him something. "You left before they handed out the medals," she said. "I saw what I needed." She sat beside him, antennae twitching gently. "You taught me everything I know." He shook his head. "You learned everything you needed, I just nudged." She turned to him. "Why did you even help me? No one else ever did." He didn't answer right away. He just watched the twin moons rise. Then, "Because I know what it's like to be the thing everyone bets against." Vrixxi tilted her head. She'd never asked about his past. Not really. Humans were complicated, wrapped in silence and stories they never finished telling. "Did you have a teacher like you?" Jace chuckled. "Not exactly. I had war, and loss, and a lot of people expecting me to break. You didn't." "I almost did, but someone believed in me. Once. That was enough." They sat in silence. Finally, Vrixxi reached into her satchel and pulled out her medal. She placed it gently beside him. "Then take this," she said. "It's yours. It's ours. You didn't just train a fighter. You gave someone like me a reason to lift her head." He didn't say anything for a long time. Then, "You know they're going to want you as a full-time instructor next cycle, right?" She blinked. "Me? You're living proof that anyone, even the smallest alien on the roughest day, can become a warrior." A pause. "Can become more than just feared, but respected." Vrixxi looked back at the academy. Lights glimmered through the windows. Somewhere cadets were already sparring. They'd seen her. They'd whisper her name. Maybe one day she'd be the one stepping in when another outcast stood alone. Maybe this was just the beginning. She smiled softly. "Then I'll teach them like you taught me." Jace nodded once. "Then I pity their enemies." And above them the stars burned quietly, witnesses to the day a tiny alien girl no one believed in became a legend, standing beside the one human who saw what no one else dared to.